Here's a competition that I'm sure most West Ham fans, if not all, will want to join. For your chance to win this framed Mohamed Kudus signed shirt, plus 15 instant wins, which include signed memorabilia from Edson Alvarez, as well as 2 hospitality tickets to watch West Ham United taking on Ipswich Town on the 5th of October at the London Stadium. Go to footballprizes.co.uk for all the details. And good luck. Well, it's a very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice. I hope you're all doing well. First week back in the Premier League, not as great as we all anticipated, which is a real shame. But plenty of time to go, I would say. And I don't think there's anything that we should be really that concerned about. I'm going to talk a little bit about the game. I have done 2 shows on it already. My apologies, there was an intro video and it didn't load. But you saw a glimpse of the transfer video that's going up later on. But anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you've all had a good weekend and you haven't allowed the football to ruin it. And there's quite a lot of stuff. We know the new season's back, and there's an awful lot of stuff that we need to talk about. We're going to talk about the latest transfers, of course, with the latest news that came out just under an hour ago that apparently we are definitely in talks with PSG over the signing of Carlos Soler. Let's see if that actually materializes, because I know we have to sell players in order to buy. And it seems to me that if we're actually having those conversations with PSG, then there's a suggestion that 1 or 2 players are about to leave West Ham United. And I guess we all kind of know who they'll be, but I'll go through all those in a moment. There's news on the academy as well, which I'll bring you up to date on too. But before I do all of that, if you're new to the channel, please do become a subscriber of the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button, and please also press the like button as well if you enjoy the content. So without further ado, as I always do, let's go into the chat. Actually, no, let's not go into the chat because I'm going to give a few shout outs. So my thanks to Steve, who I met at the bar at the new supporters club, which is really nice, by the way. And it will hopefully soon be open, extended out to all members. But Steve, thank you for having a chat with me at the bar. Really nice of you. Also, Dean, who came up to me at the supporters club as well and said hello. Also to Brian Talbot, who I was introduced to by Darren, and also all the Greek Cypriot hammers, Theodos and his son, as well as Pete, of course, who I bumped into in the pub afterwards. So hello to you all, and let's go all the way up to the chat. I think I've lost a few initial comments because I did see a different comment, but this is the first one I can see. Fulkrug can't play up top on his own. We'll talk about that later on. Good evening to you, Danny Boy. Sorry, Will. Good evening to you. Good evening to you, Danny Boy. Dino stepped up. He did. He was actually better than I initially gave him credit for. And I'm really sorry because I've definitely lost a whole load of comments from before Will's one. So I apologize. So do comment again and say hello to me. Andy, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Not the start we wanted, but on the plus side, it was much better watch. It was eventually. The first half an hour wasn't great, was it? Good evening to you, Kent. How are you? Patience is the word for West Ham. J-Lo needs 10 games to implement his style of the window. Needs to be busy. 2 or 3 more in and many out will be fine. The players need time to be demoised. 2 or 3 more? I can't make my mind up whether there will be 2 or 3 more. And if there are, then I can't make my mind up who in what positions, because I keep looking at the squad, and I'm going to talk about the squad in a moment because, of course, we were told by Lopetegui that he wants to have 2 good players in every position at West Ham, and he's saying we're not quite there yet. So if we're not quite there yet, who is it that what positions do we need to sort of invest in? But we'll go through that in a moment. Good evening to you, Kent. I hope you're well. Will, Sufal, Suchek, JWP, Ings, and Antonio are all no good in this system. Don't know. Lopetegui may think otherwise. I don't know of those who might actually be leaving West Ham. Hamret, good evening to you. Mavropanos and Kilman look good together. I would suggest, yes, I think they did. But I would suggest when Todibo came on, or Todibo, apparently, as he was pronounced, when Todibo came on, he looked really accomplished for the final few minutes of the game. Good evening, Chris. I hope you're well. Mav looks solid alongside Max Kilman. He did. That's a plus, really, isn't it? Because we were worried about Mavropanos, whether he could do it or not. He still had an error or two in the beginning of the game, but he grew into the game, which I was pleased about. Good evening to you, Daniela. Kent, I agree with you. Will, good evening again. Hammerette, are you a geezer with the Olympic boxer? Good evening to you, Danny boy. Calm yourself, HH. You should have about one time and 2 times on the posts. What's she doing? I've missed everything. So there must have been some other banter going on. Philip, good evening to you. Disappointing result, but no real surprise. I was more disappointed with the starting 11 pre-match and feared the worst. Sorry, Antonio, you really are no threat now in the Premier League. Good evening to you, Ed. I hope you're well. But I think we need him on the pitch. Who do we need on the pitch that Will mentioned? Andrew. We have only played one game, so there's no need to panic. Absolutely not. I've seen some of the comments that have come out. I've seen some, people sort of losing it a little bit, and I think it's way too early to do that. To be quite honest with you, I think we've got a long way to go. I'm sure some of you saw the immediate post-match review I did with alongside Wiggy and another friend Pete, and they weren't too enamoured, but we've got a long. If we're sort of playing this way and losing these games and still picking the same sort of team after 3 or 4 games, I'd start getting a little bit more worried as well. Usual. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. Any update on Sammy? I don't know. You better ask his brother Sonny. Will, Areola was just as much to blame as Antonio and Suchek for the first goal. Disagree. I totally disagree. Antonio let his player go. He was marking him. He was prepared. He should have been following him all the way and try to ruffle him. He let him go. He was this far away from Areola. There's no way Areola would have got that. And we know Areola's got good reflex saves. If you remember the Europa League, when we played Seville at home, when En-Nesyri shot from close range and he reflected. So we know it's possible. I can't blame Areola for that first goal, I'm afraid. Danny boy, Antonio needs to spend more time on the grass and less in the gym. Is that who you were talking about earlier? Michael, good evening to you. Back 3, Dinos, Todibo, Kilman. Midfield, Emerson, Paqueta, Rodriguez, Wan-Bissaka. Attack, Somerville, Kudus and Bowen. There's someone missing there, but we'll go through them a little bit later. Let's go down and say hello to other people who have yet to say hello. All the same people are commenting. Chris, I think Rodriguez is in until Alvarez is fit. Not sure if they will play together or not. Time will tell, but Alvarez will definitely pick up a suspension or 2 and Guido will be covered. That's what I thought initially. And everyone was saying absolutely no way. Rodriguez will play, World Cup winner and all that sort of stuff. I'm kind of a little bit with you, Chris, because I'm looking at the squad and I'm asking myself, how are we going to fit in all the players we've got, especially when we're apparently going for another central midfielder as we speak, with Carlos Soler. If that rumor is true, how are they all going to fit in? Great to have strength in depth, but who do you pick as your first 11? Good evening to you, Nick. I hope you're well. How many minutes late will still be? Quite late because a couple of things technically screwed up. Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Don't think I was that late, but who knows? Who's counting the minutes? Hammer it. Libido looked great. Todibo looked great when he came on. Really want to see more of him. Think between Kilman, Mavs, and Todibo, they'll be pretty solid. Should the former two be in form, of course. If we go with the back 3, that will give us more options in the middle. That's one way of getting more midfielders in, I guess. Phil, good evening to you. Love your talks, Vicar. I hope you're well. Who else have we got in the chat? Everyone is betting on what time I was going to come on. Neil. Our strategy for the Palace game should be, as the Japanese say, banza. Well, our strategy should be about getting some pace in, which is the sort of theme of my show tonight, because I think we've got pace in the squad now, and I think we need to unleash it. We need to allow our pacey players. Look, Kudus, we know, has got pace, and Somerville. With those players in the squad, should Somerville be starting, because that's even one less player in the middle that you're going to end up picking. Chris, good evening to you as well, mate. I hope you're well from Edinburgh. Good on you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Who else we got? Good evening, Bill. Stell teased us last. We had returned to the old Stell. You have returned to the old Stell, because I was looking for the intro video, which I put together, and it didn't download. Michael, good evening to you. But Stell's diving in the digestives and making no biscuits, no crisps. No, well, I had a bit of chocolate yesterday because at my daughter's birthday, we went out and we had dessert that was full of chocolate. I didn't feel good after it because I've not had chocolate for 3 months. But it was good to see her, good to celebrate her birthday. Howard, good evening all to you as well, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Matt. How are you? My God, it's getting later and later. CC, good evening to you. The weak links were clear to see on Saturday. Antonio, Souček and Soufal. I think we saw that. Did Lopetegui see the same? I don't know if he did. He may have done. I did suggest that he had players in the starting lineup, 9 from last season, in order to sort of demonstrate, they can show what they can do for him. Some of them let him down. Some of them didn't. Trodge, good evening to you, mate. I'm here for the hostage video. How bad was it? It couldn't have been that. It wasn't that bad, was it, that video? Good evening to you, Matt. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Tony. How are you? Good evening to you, Obsidian. How are you? Loppy out, 100% loss record. Neil, reported from one source, Paqueta charges to be dropped. No, not yet. I don't think we're going to know till around about January for that, to be honest with you. I'll be very pleased if they're true, but I don't think we're going to hear until January. Ian, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Hack Tom. Good evening, mate. Big Sigh, how are you? No chance of success until we get rid of Souček, Soufal and Ward-Prowse. I don't know if Lopetegui thinks the same. I really genuinely don't. Paul, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Black Country. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining as well. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Stephen. How are you, mate? Need a world-class striker. Really hope we can get Duran. What striker would you like? I would have liked Duran. I'm not so sure whether it's going to be Duran now. I think we're going to have to wait and see. Shaky, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Fremer, mate. How are you? Why don't we swap either Mavropanos or Gerd for Soler? Possible. Depends on whether PSG want a centre-back. I don't know if they do, to be honest with you. Good evening to you, Ralph. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Who else have we got? Dexter, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. I like the shirt. Thank you very much. Nice old farewell bowling shirt, that. Good evening to you, Gatesy. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Transfers are still in the offing. They are. Difficult to know what, but they are. But I'm going to go through some transfer stories later. The breaking news tonight is apparently we have started talks with PSG. Let's see where how that goes, because if we're definitely having to get rid of players in order to bring more players in, it's not for the squad size, by the way, because Zuma's gone. I mean, whether we pay him off. Good evening, Andy. Sorry, mate. How are you? Whether we pay Zuma off or whether he does eventually get a deal out in UAE, he's not going to be part of the squad. So we already know we've not got the 25-man squad just yet. So there's space in the squad. It's more about space in the salaries, money really, being able to afford to get another player in. That's why we've got to sell. It's not so much about having to create space. It's more about having to free up funds. Who else have we got? City Solar, good evening to you. I hope you're well. There's no pace or physical dominance in midfield. I would suggest there is. I think Somerville and Kudus are the pacey players for us. Solar coming in, I don't mind him. I think he's a tidy player. The more I've been looking up about him, reading about him, watching a few snippets of him, etc. Very good player, very tidy player. But in terms of pace, Somerville has got pace in abundance, and we know Kudus has as well. Neil Rodriguez is the man in the iron lung. Not impressed by his pace. He doesn't have pace. I don't think anyone thought he was going to have pace, and I think I did suggest when I did a review of the game again on Sunday. The one thing I said was I think he was finding it quite surprising how fast paced the Premier League is. Nick, did my super chat before stream started vanish? I don't know because all of a sudden, I did see someone else being the very first person here in the chat when I was preparing the show, and then when I went back in, I lost a whole load of comments. So my apologies for that. Sarif, hello, mate. Kalispera to you. I'm not a great start, but long way to go. George, good evening to you. We need Duran as soon as possible. I do not think we're going to get Duran, to be really honest. P. Gads, how are you, mate? Souček was the only one who had any good chances. That last one right at the death. He only had to tap it, and I think he panicked. He headed it, and it came off the player of the defender, and I think he snatched at it, and he only had to tap it in anyway. Would we have been fortunate to get a draw? I think we might have been. Even though the stats suggest that it was a lot more even, I think we got back into it without a shadow of a doubt. But to be honest with you, Aston Villa should have been 3-0 up by half time. By half an hour, after half an hour. West Ham massive. Good evening to you from Amsterdam. I hope you're doing all right over there. Stel, Abraham, Duran, Tony. Which one would you like to sign, and which one do you think is most likely? I've been told quite categorically, even though the rumours are abound, that we have no interest in Abraham. Tony, I wouldn't mind. I think he'd be my second choice, but Duran would be my first. But in terms of who I think we're most likely to get of the three, maybe Tony. Darren, good evening to you. Good evening to you, Anthony. I hope you're well, mate. Michael, would your boss expect you to take 10 weeks to learn, or 4 weeks? Probably 10 weeks. No, 4 weeks. Tony, Villa had no problem getting through our midfield. I still think we're going to be fantastic this season. Absolutely. We just got to calm ourselves. James, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Mr. Chilvers, good evening to you. Loppy needs time. I'm preparing to give him 10 to 12 games. Did you see how passionate he was and how angry he was after the game when he threw his bottle of water on the ground? Absolutely. He was livid, and rightly so. Rightly so. Shaky. It's a worry Souček was handed the captain's armband when Bone went off. And this is why I think he, as in Lopetegui, may be seeing more in Souček than we do as fans. And you've got to try and look at it from the coach's point of view. They see different things in training. They see different things on the pitch. I think Lopetegui thinks Souček has got value. Now, do I think that Souček will be a regular starter in the first 11? No, I don't. I don't think he will. But I think Lopetegui's giving him more credit than maybe we are. David, good evening, mate. How are you? I hope you're well. I like Soufal, his work rate, but I don't think he's quite good enough, and Souček is a bit shit. Barry, Antonio couldn't track a bag of cement. Technique. Lopetegui talked an awful lot about versatility and technique, and let's be honest, Antonio is a bit one track now. We know what he's going to do when he comes on the pitch, and when it comes to technique, he is lacking. Andy, all good, Ralph. Crazy, but work. But best thing about Saturday, no Moyes to stare at. Gary Craig, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. We need to sell Souček, Soufal, Antonio, Ings, Mavropanos, Cornet, and JWP. And I can guarantee you we won't sell all of those players. If we can move on at least 2, maybe 3, I think we'd be doing okay. Christine, good evening to you. Hi, I hope you're well. Graham, good evening, mate. We need a show about Wiggy's shirt. We really don't. Ralph, yes, agree. But when starting lineup, I thought Moyes had returned. I think I get why he picked the 9 players. I kind of suggested it in the post-match review as well, and on the reflection. Aston Villa have got a very stable team. And Lopetegui in his first game must have thought, we'll go for safety first. Pick as many players that are familiar, that are played together, that don't need to just take time to gel together. It didn't quite work out. Hammer it. We match Villa's statistics for like, pretty much already seeing signs of good progression. We definitely got better when we scored our penalty. I think we improved immensely after that, and we were quite close in terms of possession, etc., after that. But it's the first half hour that was extremely shaky. Question: is Palace a must not lose game now with City after them? Every game's must not lose, but that ain't going to be an easy game. They lost to Brentford, surprisingly. I thought they might have given Brentford a better game, but they lost to Brentford at the weekend. They're going to be licking their wounds as well, and it's not become an easy play. I mean, let's not forget what they did to us last season at that ground. And it's not going to be an easy game. They've got good players. They've got a good coach. So I think if we, in all honesty, Michael, if we walk away with a draw, and I know that sounds a bit defeatist, but if we walk away from with that from a draw, I'll be happy. Shaky. It took Emerson a while to settle in. He's solid now. Absolutely. Good evening to you, Michael. Appreciate the match day videos from the ground. It's great getting updates so quickly. I wish they were quicker because the uploads, the Wi-Fi at the stadium is shocking. When I put a 1 minute video up after a goal, that gets there eventually. When I do the post-match review, that could take up to an hour and a half sometimes because everyone's streaming out of the stadium. Everyone's using Wi-Fi. Everyone's using their 4G or 5G, etc. And it's really frustrating because we finished that video straight after the game, and I think it took 2 hours to load. If anyone can help me out with that, technically, do let me know. Trini, old school, any crosses coming into the 6-yard box, I want my keeper coming for it. Look, I don't disagree with that, Trini. I don't disagree. But when you've got so many players who are so close to the keeper, it makes it a lot harder as well. I'm not blaming Areola for that goal. Anthony, forward line, the German up front, Kudos as a number 10, behind Bowen on the right and Somerville on the left, and Paquetá on the bench. George, Souček put the ball out for a corner when he should have cleared upfield. Yeah, fair play. It wasn't a great back pass, was it? I think it was to Soufal, I think. Trudge. We're always a hard watch with 3 at the back. Is that going to change? I've got a feeling that could be a tactic that we might use, maybe as early as this weekend. Gaz, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Obsidian. Cross came into the 6-yard box. Should be the keeper's ball. Fair play. I mean, that's fair. That's fair on the views. I don't know what the keeper's been told to do, but that's fair play. Okay. Hammer 84. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Still, as always, late. Well, I was very late, so I wouldn't worry. You haven't missed much. Dexter. I think the general consensus is to be patient this season. I think we'll have a good season. I think Somerville should start, in my opinion, on the left. Him and Emerson will link up well on that side. Inclined to agree. Andy, Ralph, you're right. I will only be happy when Souček and Soufal are playing in Turkey. This week will do for me. You might be upset. Ian, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. My attack, Gaz, would be Fuller, Somerville, Kudus, and Bowen. Bill, strength in depth, but need to change the formation and make 2 or 3 players in the subs. Yep, good shout. Dave, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Areola has mistakes in him. It's in his 6-yard box. Go and claim the ball. Fabs for me all day long till Areola learns. I rate Areola. And maybe I'm a bit too harsh on. I still think Antonio should have stayed with his man, but a lot of you are saying that it was Areola's fault. Okay, I'll accept that. I don't agree, but I'll accept it. George, Bowen and Paquetá should never have been subbed. No, I get why they were subbed. Neither of them have had a full pre-season. I understand it. Neither of them were on the pace of the game, and I got why they were taken off. We don't like it when a big player's taken off, but I understood why. From there, maybe Soler comes in as a possible backup to Paquetá. I think that too, to be honest with you, because we don't know what's going to happen with him. Epic. Rodriguez is awful. Biggest flop of the season. Hang on. 1 game. It's going to take him time, to get acclimatized to the pace. The pace, as we know, is relentless in the Premier League, and he'll realize that. GP, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Shaky. Areola 6'4", most protected man on the pitch, claimed the ball. Fair play. Andy, Lopetegui made a load of mistakes on Saturday. Hope he learns quickly. George, Kudus should not have been played out on the left. This is a big dilemma I have, George. I kind of partly agree with you in that, and I keep looking at the formation. I keep saying to myself, how do you make sure Kudus doesn't play on the left? I've got some ideas that I'll come to in a moment. Usual. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Question: did they say all he left was alone or alone? Ian, Moyes back like he never left. Give it time. Give it time. Will, Lopetegui wants 2 players per position, so that means Alvarez and Rodriguez won't play together. Yeah, good point. GP, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. I don't ask for money, but I really thank you for it. I hope that everything's okay. I hope I'm not going blurry or anything. Gaz, Tammy Abraham coming along with Soler. I've been told definitely not. I've been told we have no interest in Tammy Abraham, but I know the push is out there. We keep hearing it almost every day for the past week and a half or so now. But I keep being told no, that's we're not interested in Tammy Abraham. Adrian, we haven't got much time to find a willing buyer to the several that need to be moving on. I think we've been trying, Adrian. But I think there's been a lot of players that there's been no takers for, to be honest with you. Nil, Kudus, class act as usual. He was superb. Trini, Bentancur knocked out in the Spurs game. Ouch. I hope he's okay. Tony, the starting 11 will be different in a couple of games. I agree. I think the starting 11 will be different this coming Saturday. 1-1 Vardy equaliser. Gone. Get in there. Trini again. Rodriguez is compared to Busquets, who had no pace but was still very effective at what he did. And that's what we've got to do. He's going to just sit in front of the back four. That's all he's going to do. And he's going to need players around him who are going to be doing the running for him. Gary, we need to get rid of the deadwood. We have a load. We do, but easier said than done. Martin, would Duran give up playing Champions League football to join us? If he thought he was going to get very regular football, then I think he would. But it looks as if Unai Emery is beginning to want to use him as much as he can. Let's see what happens when the transfer window shuts, whether Duran starts getting more game time after then. Trini, Duran is third choice at Villa, hence why they are willing to let him go. Is he though? I'm not too sure. I think he may now become second choice. Glenn, why are we getting another midfielder? Because we're getting shit on is up front striker. That's what we really need. Nick, thank you, mate. You are a nutter, but thank you. Ian Carvel, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Duran wants regular first team football. Exactly. Do forgive me if I'm not commenting at every comment because I am behind and I've got a lot to go through in the show tonight. Liam, good evening to you. Thank you for creating content that helps people through tough times. Love from Sweden. My pleasure, mate. And thank you for joining. Martin, apparently Tony, and I hope you're all well, by the way, Liam. Hope everything's all right. Apparently Tony is moving to the Saudi League and has very big wage demands at Brentford. Well, apparently that is true as well. Who knows? Maybe. Andy, something regarding Souček and Soufal has been influenced by Kretinsky due to a Czech connection. It can't be for their ability. They ain't got any, in my opinion. I don't think Kretinsky's got anything remotely to do with the senior squad, to be quite honest. Well, all he has to do with West Ham United is invest money, and that's what he's done. I genuinely, Andy, think he has no interest. No, let me take that back. Not that he doesn't have any interest, but he has no input into what happens in the senior squad. Danny Boy spent all his time chasing women and drinking. Who did? Nick, Kilman had 82 touches, made 5 progressive passes, 5 ball recoveries, 58 passes, 55 ball carries, 7 clearances, 2 interceptions, 2 blocks, 2 tackles. That's pretty impressive. Hammeret, Antonio could fast become one of the most frustrating players to watch after all the graft and nothing on the tail end of it. Damien's not here, is he? Damien? Who's Damien? GJ, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Andrew, Soufal was targeted again. He absolutely was. Lopetegui needs to learn fast that Wan-Bissaka needs to start against Palace. I dare say, I think he will. George, we will lose to Palace if Lopetegui picks the same 11. I would agree with that. Will, do we really need 2 central defensive midfielders defending our defenders? In a way, yes, because Lopetegui likes his fullbacks to dart forward, kind of exposes the back a little bit if we lose the ball. So I get it. I get why he might want to. Will he play 2 in every game? That I'm not sure about, to be quite honest with you. Daniela, guys and girls, we can't sell everyone we don't like. They're still going to have 40 plus games to play and we can still get injuries. We're not going to sell everyone. Lopetegui wants at least 25. Well, at least he wants 25 players. Ian, it was good to see that the boss so irate with the players and straight up and down in the post-match. Hope to see Todibo and Wan-Bissaka start the next match and Fulkrug for that matter. We miss Alvarez still. Let's scroll down. Actually, you know what? Let me stop there for a second. And let's go into the first part of the show because I want to give you some updates because the season's back. So that means we're going to give you some proper updates like I always have done. Let's change the background. That's good. Okay. And let's go back into the chat in 1 sec. Okay. Right. Academy round updates. So they were back in action at the weekend, the Academy, just like the senior team was. And the under-18s narrowly lost their season opener in the Premier League Under-18s League to Arsenal. Tightly contested game. Arsenal took the lead on 20 minutes with the Under-18s responding from the penalty spot soon after. But despite every pressure, they went 3-1 down in the second half. Pulled a goal back in the 85th minute, but we couldn't get that all-important equaliser. A few names, additions to who made their debuts. Majid Balogun, who we got from Man United in the summer. David Chiguada, who we all got from Man City. Apparently, these are two very good young players. So let's see how they get on. And it was the first game for new coaches, new managers of the under-18s. I don't know if you're aware that Kevin Keane is no longer the under-18s coach. It was Loris Coggin and Zavon Hines who are now managing the team. Kevin Keane has moved on from his post of under-18s coach to become head of academy coaching at West Ham United. With regards to Coggins, he's been at West Ham for a number of years. Since 2016, he came in as a youth coach, then moved to become Kevin Keane's assistant coach last year, and now he's taken over the reins. So we wish him well. And I'm sure you all know Zavon Hines, who developed in the academy squad at West Ham United. He was played for us for a number of years. He's played for a variety of clubs, and he retired from playing football in 2019. He took up youth coaching at West Ham as well, and now he's become the assistant to Coggin, and we wish them both really well. The under-21s got off to a flying start under head coach Mark Robson this season at the weekend. A whole load of new players that have moved into the under-21s as well. They had a fine away 2-0 win to Brighton. Midfielder Sean Moore opened the scoring on 20 minutes. Then in added time, substitute Emeka Adiel, who signed his first professional contract with the club this summer, was on goal from an excellent threaded ball from Lewis Orford to seal the game. Adiel went on to actually play in the under-18s less than 24 hours later. Robson's returned to his role as head coach after a brief spell as one of the assistant coaches to David Moyes last season. Steve Potts has moved back down to become his assistant head coach for the under-21s. We wish them well. Some names, and another new name that's recently only just signed for West Ham in the under-21s is Brad Dollahan. He signed his first professional contract after a successful summer spell on trial at the club. He joined from Worthing, where he had a prolific spell at the club. His goals propelled Worthing to reach the final of the National League South playoffs, where they were narrowly beaten by Braintree. We wish him all the very best. And more players are coming in, apparently. We're getting ourselves a Kante, but not that particular Kante. This Kante is Mohamedou Kante from Paris FC, not Paris Saint-Germain. I don't know if they're affiliated. I'm really no idea. The player, who turns 19 in just over a month's time, is said to be in London, having had his medical today at Rush Green, with a view to signing and being put straight into the under-21s development squad and we wish him all the very best. Gideon Kodua is expected to sign an extension on his current contract at West Ham, and then we'll see the versatile player move to Wycombe Wanderers on a season-long loan. Kodua joined Wycombe last season in the second half of the season, but didn't get an awful lot of game time there. And after the successful loan spell of Freddie Potts, Cotterer is going to follow suit. Hopefully, he's going to be as successful as Potts was over there. Now, a number of players are out on loan. A number of our academy players are out on loan. First off, George Earthy, who secured his loan move to Bristol City just before the weekend, made his debut in the win against Millwall. Bristol went 2-0 down against Millwall, levelled it to 3-3. Earthy was introduced, and within 4 minutes left to play, the 19-year-old midfielder got involved in Bristol City's winner. So well done to him. Elsewhere, Callum Marshall. Where is that? Oops, wrong one. Elsewhere, Callum Marshall made his League One debut, playing 25 minutes as substitute in the second half as at Huddersfield Town beat Stevenage 2-1. Other players that are out on loan, Michael Forbes, who played 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup the previous midweek, was not involved in Bristol Rovers' goalless draw. We want to see our young players going out on loan, but getting some game time. That's what we're interested in. In League Two, Levi Lang and Patrick Kelly featured for their respective clubs. Kelly came on for the last 15 minutes in the Doncaster Rovers defeat by Newport County. Meanwhile, Lang played 53 minutes for Cheltenham Town. He started in that game, who fought back from 2-0 down, only to be denied by a last-minute Grimsby winner. So let's hope. I mean, I made a mistake, by the way, last week. I suggested that goalkeeper Christian Heggie, who's out on loan to Scottish Premier League club Motherwell, has been making first team appearances. I was wrong. My apologies for that. He's still yet to make his senior appearance for them. His side advanced at the weekend to the quarterfinals of the Scottish League Cup with an extra time win over Kilmarnock, but he unfortunately was still benched. Now, I talked about the team, and I want to look at the game. I want to look at our game in a little bit more sort of depth. Now, I'm not going to try and do what I've did, a review, but I'm going to sort of try and do a bit of a technical look, a sort of an analysis of the team itself. Because look, someone asked me a question before I came on about what did he think of our formation, and this is how we started the game. Our formation looked like it was a 4-2-3-1. Interestingly, I was surprised that Paquetá was put deeper than Souček, because if you remember my saying, Souček started the Celta Vigo game where he was deeper and Paquetá had a free role as the number 10. This time round, Lopetegui changed it, and he kind of put Paquetá more or less alongside Rodriguez, with the three just behind Antonio. Now, if you could see, look, the players are not selected. I'm going to talk about those players in a moment when I come to sort of transfers, etc. But the players that were selected, you know, people were complaining that we didn't see enough of our new signings, that we only had 2 new signings in the team, Kilman and Rodriguez. And many were saying, you know, should have had Todibo, should have had Wan-Bissaka, should have had Somerville, Fulkrug, etc., etc. Excuse me, etc., etc. I dare say we are going to see more of these players over time. I dare say we're going to see a lot of these new players when we play Crystal Palace at the weekend. But the changes that happened, the one thing I think I liked about Lopetegui is when he made changes, you could see a change in formation as well. So we didn't stick to the rigid 4-2-3-1. Now, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but on formation, when we made the first batch of changes, we kind of still had Fulkrug as the striker up front. But Kudus moved to the right side when Boehm came off. Somerville was introduced on the left side. And then it looked like a sort of almost like a 4-3-3 formation, where it was Souček in the middle, who was kind of like getting forward and getting back. You could correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I am, but it felt like a 4-3-3-ish type of formation. And then when we were chasing the game with on 85 minutes, it felt as if we went through at the back. I was confused as to where Emerson played, and it kind of like looked like he drifted more in the middle, and then it went to almost like a 4-3-4. Sorry, a 3-3-4 formation almost. So what I liked about Lopetegui is he's not afraid to change players. He's not afraid to take big players off, and he's not afraid to change formation. That's the one thing that we were crying out for in the last season or so under Moyes, is that it was too rigid and he wouldn't make changes. A lot of people suggested that maybe Lopetegui didn't make changes in enough time, but I was glad that he did. To actually see him changing formations as well during game time really bodes well, because it means he's going to try and play players to their strengths. Now, if we look at some of the players in more detail, people have talked about it. Soufal, look, he tried hard, but we all know, it's difficult for Soufal now. He was targeted, as people have suggested. He was targeted on the right side of defence, and we know that Wan-Bissaka is going to be a more solid player. He may not go as forward as maybe Lopetegui wants, but he's going to be a much more solid right back for West Ham United. And I think he probably will start against Crystal Palace at the weekend. And then Mavropanos, I did him disservice, when I did the immediate review after the game, and I suggested he didn't play well. But looking on reflection, I think he did all right. I think he actually did an awful lot better. I think he was a little bit shaky, giving the ball away in the early part of the game. But I think other players did that as well. Paquetá did too. But he settled, and I think he had a good game. Rodriguez, well, you've already been saying it in the chat. He needs to adjust to the pace of the Premier League, and it might take a little bit of time. And he might need someone who's going needs to sit alongside him to protect him to do that. I know what you're saying, but as someone suggested in the chat, Busquets didn't have a lot of pace, but he was very, very useful for the team that he played for, Barcelona. Paqueta, look, he hasn't had a full preseason. He was off the pace, and it didn't surprise me one bit that he was taken off, but well taken penalty nonetheless. Bowen is the same. Bowen, I think he's had one game. I think he's had maybe two games at most. I think there was a behind the closed doors game when they were still over in America where Bowen featured. And then he had the game against Celta Vigo. Not enough. It's going to take him time. So it didn't surprise me. And a lot of people have been suggesting that maybe he shouldn't have been made captain. I don't mind Bowen being captain. I get the tradition of having a centre back or a centre midfielder being captain. I understand that. But I think he'll grow into it, and I think he'll be successful at it. Antonio, you guys have mentioned it already, just not technically able. Like I said in the post-match review in the first half, Bowen was on goal. All Antonio had to do was thread it through, and he whacked it, misjudged the pace of the ball and whacked it forward. No way could Bowen get it. We love him for his, he's a trier, he's a grafter. West Ham United fans love grafters, don't they? But unfortunately, his technical ability, well, he's never had it. His touch, like I've said many times before, if he doesn't have to think about something, he'll be excellent at it. But when he's got time to think about something, he's pretty poor at it. Fulkrug, now he's said he doesn't want to be a passenger in this side. He's not come to West Ham United to be a sub. I don't think he will be for much longer. I do actually think he may start on Saturday as well. And Souček, I honestly think there's an awful lot of unfair criticism that's targeted at Thomas Souček at times. I think, he's not a technically gifted player like Paqueta is, like Kudus is, like Bowen is, etc., like Carlos Soler when we get him here is as well. But I think there must be a good reason why Lopetegui gave him the captain's armband. He seems to have trust in him. Who knows? With Soler coming in, I think maybe we'll see a bit less of Souček in the starting lineup. But sometimes I think there's unfair criticism of him. Now, the one thing that we really do need to get to grips with is Mohamed Kudus, and where does he play in the starting lineup? Because people have said I think he did. He had an excellent game out on the left, and no denying that. But we all know, don't we, that the left side for Mohamed Kudus is not his favoured side. It's not where he's played his football in his career. And ironically, when we played him there at the tail end of last season, when David Moyes played him there at the tail end of last season, people were critical, saying that you're playing, square pegs in round holes and etc. But we seem to be accepting of the fact that Lopetegui did the same. He's put him out on the left. I don't know if I want him out on the left. I want him to have that free role. But then you've got the dilemma with Paquetá being in the middle of the park. How many players are going to be given free roles? And it's a concern. Now, the one thing I like about Paquetá, about Kudus, is that he's got pace to burn. We can see that, but he can use that pace in the middle of the park. Remember the goal against Freiburg in Europa Conference in the Europa League last season. He drove the ball from our own half into goal. We know he can do it. He can do it out wide. He can do it in the middle of the park as well, and so too can Crescencio Somerville. He's got pace to burn as well, and I want to see that. See, one thing I think we still lack a little bit at West Ham is pace. We're not utilizing that pace. I want to see Kudus being given the ball and let him run with it. I want to see Somerville being given the ball and let him run with it as well. And then when it comes to team selection, now I think this is going to be the predicted team selection against Crystal Palace at the weekend. I think we will see Wan-Bissaka in. I think we will see Todibo. I think we will see Fulkrug. But again, we're likely to see Kudus out on the left. Now, if it was my choice, and what do I know, this is what I'd go for. I mean, in here, I've got Souček, and I think it's quite likely, quite possible, that if Souček doesn't play, then it could be Ward-Prowse that might play. I think Lopetegui is thinking, I want to give a little bit more protection so that my attacking players can go further forward. So he might play Souček a little bit deeper, or he might play Ward-Prowse. If it were me, I would be a little bit gung-ho, maybe a bit too gung-ho, but I trust in the central defenders that we've got with Todibo, who looked really assured in just the 5 minutes plus the added time. He had 12 minutes on the pitch. He looked quite assured. I think Kilman looked really assured. And I think Wan-Bissaka, as I mentioned earlier, he's a far better defender. He may not go as forward as much, but he's a far better defender. So by having those players there, I think we might be a bit kamikaze, because in the early part of the game on Saturday, we did seem to leave ourselves a little bit exposed. So if you put Paqueta there, you may think, well, that's going to leave us even more exposed. But what you can do with this setup is you can go with three at the back. You can go with Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, and Kilman at the back if Emerson is pushing forward, and then Emerson can tuck in alongside Rodriguez to sort of help out there. But the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to see, this is the price you pay. How many goals do you concede, but then how many goals can you score? The price to pay for having Kudus in the middle is by having someone like Somerville out left. Someone suggested maybe you put Paqueta there. Could do. You could put Paqueta there, don't pick Somerville, and then put Souček or Ward-Prowse in the middle of the park. That would be what I would do. But I think we will see more new players starting the game at the weekend. I think Wan-Bissaka will, I think Todibo will, and I think Fulkrug will. I'd be surprised if he uses the same 11 that he did against Aston Villa at the weekend. I'm talking a lot because next bit I'm going to go to is transfers. So let's go into your comments and we'll pick up from there. Will, Alvarez is out till September. He's out until after we got more internationals in September and October. Stop playing, and I'm asking why we have to play Souček or Ward-Prowse alongside Rodriguez. I hope I've just given you the answer to have a little bit more protection. Trini, stop playing Pac-Man as a 10. He is wasted there. Where would you put him? So would you play him a bit deeper? GP, Stell should take this shirt off and not ruin it. Not during the show. Paqueta was crap, to be fair. Chalk and cheese from the last match to this one. Yeah, But let's be honest, he hasn't had a full preseason. Good evening, Pete. I hope you're well, mates. Sarkwa, good evening to you. Is Kudus leaving this season? No, he's not. Apache, rumor has it we are after someone who is better than Lukaku. He's apparently called Arthur Masu Arku. Uh, do I love Kudus? Who doesn't? Tell me what West Ham fan doesn't love Kudus. Zackers, good evening to you. Areola takes a few games to get 100%. Fair enough. I still don't think he was guilty for that goal. But anyway, Trini, they have changed the rules with holding in the box again, makes it easier for attackers. Trini, Rodriguez a flop. What game was that in? I think he settled, to be honest. I think he was tidy. Pace-wise, agreed. George, JWP should have stayed on the bench. He was all right. No great shakes, but Chris, Rodriguez isn't a flop. He was a free transfer. Michael, Fulcrook has not been given a chance. He comes on, the supply line goes off. Good point, Andy, but it's only one game. We know we're going to use him in a different way moving forward. Calm down, Epic. You'll be asking for Moist back next. Let's scroll down. Shaky. When was the last time Paqueta had a consistently good game? He's been average for a while. Ducks for cover from Shaky. Fulkrug is Ings number 2. How can you tell that after just 15 minutes of 20 minutes of him being on the pitch? Glenn, why are we not getting another striker? Didn't say we weren't. There are apparently 1 or 2 more deals to happen. Graham, such a shame to hear all this negativity. I'm sure we'll be fine. It will be fine. We just got to settle. We've got to settle. We've got to allow the process to happen. As someone else said, it could take 10 to 12 games. We've got to accept that. We're not going to hit the ground. We're not always going to hit the ground running. Michael, 30 mil for Tammy or 40 mil for Duran. I know who I would buy. Same as me. I agree. 69 Claret. Good evening to you. Patience, everyone. I'd like to think J-Lo gave some of those players a chance and let them know it's time to shine or be dropped. And they didn't shine. Good evening to you. I agree with you. Good evening, Juha. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Barry, good evening to you. Tammy's ACL is the reason Roma want him gone. Exactly. That's why I'm not convinced that we're really going to go for him. Will, Duran is Villa's number 9 now. We will not get him for 40 million anymore. No, I think that our chances have gone on that. Darren, Felix is joining Chelsea now, so Duran won't leave. There you go. GJ, Emery said, but hang on, did Chelsea go after Duran? Was it them that went after him? GJ, Emery said every player has their price. After talking about Duran, he's available 100%. He gave mixed messages, didn't he? Gaz. Fulcrook has very few minutes and no service. We can't get on his case yet. I'm sure he'll do well. I agree with that. Andrew, Fulcrook, 31 and Rodriguez 30 was a backward step in my opinion. We were already the second oldest squad in the division. Colin, what we need in midfield would be a player like Fofana. How Loss should have got him when we had the chance. Play Bowman, Fulcrook, Somerville, left wing, Kudus, right wing, free roll with Paqueta just behind. It's not for the want of trying for Fofana, but Fofana didn't want to come, unfortunately. Obsidian. Not saying Antonio is blameless. Goal doesn't happen if he stays with his man. Him and Areola need kick up the Aris GP. Andrew, it's more the Premier League speed rather than age. Hilaire and Scamacca were under 30 and still flopped. I beg to differ there. Hilaire didn't flop. Moyes didn't use him properly. I think if Hilaire had stayed, we'd have been playing Champions League that following season. Scamacca, he was a flop. I agree with that. Let's scroll down. Hammerette. Shaky, he was impressive as an impact sub before, but clearly needs to come on when we've got creativity around him, not when we've got JWP and Tati. Trudge. Feels harsh to blame just Antonio and Areola, though, when we could have been 3 goals up, when they could have been 3 goals up in the first half. Exactly that. Let's scroll down. Andy, GP. From what I've seen from both players so far, they look extremely slow, not equipped to deal with the speed of the Premier League. Hope I'm wrong. It's the way they're being used, as was suggested earlier. And I do agree. You need pace. When I talk about pace, I'm talking about pace up front. I agree. Yeah, but our defenders have got pace. Kilman is pretty decent. Emerson's pretty decent. Wan-Bissaka will be. Todibo is pretty decent as well. So, I get it about the holding midfield, but I think I think he'll come good, Rodriguez. David, Stell, do you know if Lewis Orford has signed a new contract yet? My understanding is, I kind of said it a few weeks ago, that Orford has been offered a 5-year deal. And my understanding is that he has accepted that deal. He played in the under-18s at the weekend. We're waiting to see if he's going to stay in the under-18s or go out on loan. Will, there is no rational argument to play JWP or Souček apart from their wages. Well, so what we think, but what does Lopetegui think? He'll see it completely differently. Fred, Soufal was like a headless chicken, totally lost the plot, has to play Wan-Bissaka. Andy, we will definitely Potts or over Souček. In fact, anyone the kit man over Souček. Well, I know I keep saying it and I sound like a broken record, but there must be something that Lopetegui is seeing in Souček that we're clearly not. Why give him the armband afterwards? Nick, Paris FC merged with Stade de Germain to form Paris Saint-Germain in 1970. In 72, the club split from Paris Saint-Germain, resulting in the current Paris FC. Thank you for that. Didn't know that. CM, the throwing thing by Loppy was for show. No, I think he cares. I don't think he's the sort of person you want to cross. Ryan, I didn't understand why Wan-Bissaka didn't start. He has had a full preseason with Man United. I agree. But like I said earlier in the show, I think quite possibly what Lopetegui may have been thinking is, I've got 9 players I can put here who are familiar with each other, not going to have to sort of get acclimatized to each other, etc. And I think that's why he did it. Didn't quite work great. Let's scroll down. Matt. We don't have another right back apart from Soufal and Wan-Bissaka. Hamaret, they will be our 2 right backs for sure. They will be at the moment. Wasim, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Will, Stell, we are supposed to be talking about West Ham, mate. What did I start talking about? That comment was 15 minutes ago, so I don't know what I ended up talking about back then. I've got to go. Thank you. And I've said thank you. And I go again, thank you for those donation. Really, really appreciated. Thank you so much. Right. Where did I go? I think I've said that. I think we've seen Andrew. I think we will see Duran or Meridian rock up before the window closes. It's imperative we get the powerful, pacey striker in. It's all about speed, and I agree with you. Do I think we've got a chance with Duran? I'm not sure that we do anymore. I'm not sure. And when I go through your comments, I'll go into the latest transfer news. Matt, if it involves a West Ham player on loan, it's still talking about West Ham. What did I talk about? Players on loan is still West Ham. So yeah, I will do that. You're gonna have to bear with me. And when the women start their football, you're gonna have to hear that as well too, because it's all West Ham. Cian, if he picked the same team on safety going with last season's players, he obviously hasn't watched any games from last season. Fair point. Let's scroll down. True Culture, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Is it just me, or every time Antonio gets subbed, other teams score on West Ham? It might just be you. Obsidian, I don't mind trying Pack in the 8, but not to accommodate Souček as a 10. That's ridiculous. Kudus as 10 with Jimmy on the left is worth a shout. Andrew, Ange could be under pressure at Spurs this season. I think they've been found out. Yeah, their problem, not ours. True Culture. Bowen was poor, in my opinion, yesterday. He was not up to speed. It's going to take a few weeks. We've got to remember that. We've got to remember he only played, 24 minutes for England in the Euros, and then left languishing on the bench when he could have gone on and changed the game for England. But, that's gone. Not that I'm bitter, but anyway. And he hasn't played a lot of football since then. He's been training, but he's not match fit. So I got why he was taken off, and he definitely was poor. He wasn't in the game. Shaky. I was unaware of HG. He should have gone to Portugal. He'd got decent game time. Tony. The thing that Lopetegui needs to change from the Moyes era is the cheap turnovers. We still give the ball away so much, with Paqueta losing in the ball so much. This always means our defense is under pressure. Good point. That's a good point. Good evening, Rupert. I hope you're well. Good to see you at the weekend. Can't stay long as someone has pinched all my mobile data Saturday night in the pub and left me with no data. I wonder who that would have been. Billy, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Obsidian, Bone was poor, but he's a game changer. Always a chance while he's on the pitch. He wasn't in it, and I understood why he was taken off. Gaz, Stel, Bowen was covering a lot for Sufal. He won't need to do that with Wan-Bissaka. That's another good point as well. Andrew, taking Paqueta and Bowen and Antonio off at the same time was a strange one, and in my opinion, it wasn't strange. Antonio was having not the greatest of games. In fact, to be honest with you, all three were not having the greatest of games. To be really, really fair, they weren't. Fred, Wan-Bissaka used to bomb up the wing when he was at Palace. Could still do it if he picks his moments. Shaky, Busquets had world-class players around him. Well, Kudus, Paqueta, Bowen, they're not bad, are they? Colin, Stelios, I don't think now we will get Duran, but what do you think of Jimenez or Meridian? But do we know if we have to sell first players like Ings, Antonio, Sufal, Souček, etc.? Yes, my understanding is that we are going to have to sell some of these players in order to get other players in. That is my understanding. Andy, heard something funny about Antonio on another YouTube channel. He has a trampoline feet. He has trampoline feet. Did make me trampoline feet? What's trampoline feet? I don't understand. He's got trampoline feet. Am I reading that right? You're going to have to explain what that means, mate. Michael, Antonio's pinball machine, the ball hits him and who knows where it ends up. It's unfortunately so true. Andrew, Tim Vickery commented on Rodriguez signing for us, basically saying he was quite an ordinary player and can see him struggling with speed in the Premier League. Espen, good evening to you. I trust Loppy seems to have the trust Loppy seems to have in Souček scares me. Maybe that's another reason why Solaire's coming in, to be honest with you. Good evening to you, Richard. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. I hope it's good. I hope Jake is good. And the missus, of course. I hope she's well. Gaz, Souček, even though I don't think he's got good enough for our team, does get into great goal scoring positions. Even though he misses many, he's in the right place at the right time. Graham, I think Souček's got the armband as he was the senior player on the pitch, and I read no more into it than that. Fair play. That's fair play. Scott. Andrew, just wait. He's going to be signing of the season. Andy, HH, did you see the video clip with Digne going back to changing horrible twat? Obsidian, in the second Leverkusen game, Ward-Prowse was great, pressed like a demon. He may have value. He may well have value. Michael, let's face it, Ward-Prowse ain't going to break Beck. Didn't understand that, mate. Sorry. Shaky, Souček can't pass the ball. One job, Thomas. One bloody job. Let's scroll down a bit. Obsidian, Stel, if you suggest Souček plays once more, I'm starting the Stel out petition. He might play once more. He might not. Teddy, sorry I'm late. Back three against Palace. Good evening to you, Teddy. And I did mention that. I did say there could be a possibility of either that formation or that formation, but not a back three. You could change it to a back three, I guess. You could drop one of the one of the defenders and bring in another midfielder, possibly. Espen, I think that 11 is beautiful. Is that my 11? I'd like to see that. I'm not so sure it will happen, but I like to see that. It does leave us a little bit exposed, but like I say, that's where the defenders earn their money, isn't it? Let's scroll down. Daniel, good evening to you. If Lopetegui really wants certain players to leave, then he absolutely must leave them out of matchday squad or they'll never go. Well, he did leave one or two, didn't he? If you go back to the lineup, let's go back to that. Starting 11. Shall I put that one? Shall I do that one? Let's do that one. If you look at the players that were in the lineup and on the subs bench, the players he left out. Now, I'm glad he's not picking three goalies on the bench, which is good to see. So no reason for Foderingham to be selected. We know that Alvarez is injured as well. I'm not surprised. I think a few people expressed surprise that Guilherme was not picked on the subs. I'm not surprised one bit that he wasn't picked, to be honest with you. But the interesting two were that he left Agerd out and he left Cornet out. Now, this takes us on to transfers because we know that players have got to go in order to bring players in. Now, you could argue that he could have put maybe, I don't know, a Gerd instead of Creswell, or he could have put maybe Cornet instead of young Irving, but he selected Irving instead. So he had options to play a Gerd or to put a Gerd and Cornet on the bench, but he chose not to, which seems to suggest to me that both of those players could be further on their way out than we think. Nick, if you wanted to know about Paris FC, merge with you did that one. I'm not going to do it again. Johnny, Mac, good evening to you. Unfortunately, I think he would look to play three in the middle as Roddy has no pace. That's possible. I think you could still play three in the middle with the lineup I've got here. Let's go to that. First 11 there. I think you could still play three in the middle where you just drop maybe Paqueta. You put Rodriguez in the middle. You have Paqueta and Souček either side. And then you have three up front in Bowen, Kudus and Fulkrug. You could do that. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't mind that either as well. Usual. Rodri has been offered £370,000 a week at City to sign an extension. Rodri, well, we're not talking about the same not talking about our Rodri then. True culture. What Paqueta gives on creative side, Kudus doesn't. Kudus is a better. What Paqueta gives on the creative side, Kudus doesn't. Kudus is a better protector of the ball, I will say. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Andrew. Play Bowen up front with Somerville on the left and Kudus on the right until Fulkrug gets up to speed. Good shout as well. Ryan, Fulkrug played up top on his own in Champions League final just 3 months ago. He can do it. No reason why he can't. Will, Fulkrug is going to be another Haller or Skamaka if you expect him to play up top all alone. Well, someone has just said he has played up top on his own for his previous club. Scott, Fuller just needs service and he'll score. He had two passes in 2 games. He had 2 passes in 2 games and a great header away. James, we all know that it's on the right where Kudus plays best. He's on fire. Will be, as will Danny Dyer. But this is the conundrum. Ash, Fulkrug would be class. Paqueta needs to go deeper so he has time on the ball to make them killer passes. And we have to start Somerville. He looks tricky. So therefore, you're suggesting then maybe my formation would be to play Paqueta deeper, put Somerville out wide and put Kudus in the middle. Or you could, like someone has just said, put Bowen up front, put Kudus out on the right and play Souček in the middle or whatever. Let's scroll down. How far behind am I? Not too far. Want to catch up and then want to do transfers. Will, Antonio and Ings are done at West Ham. They need to be moved on. Like I said, easier said than done. It's not that for the lack of trying. It's a matter of, can we get buyers for these players? Johnny, Fulkrug is class. Get the crosses in. He'll do the job. He was right behind the header that Souček had missed. Robert, good evening to you. The squad has been mostly blown up. We should continue. I'm still not sure about Paqueta. He's hot and cold. It's a good comment, I'll give him benefit of the doubt for this game because, like I said earlier in the show, he's been rusty. He's not had a full pre-season. But I agree with you. He can blow hot and cold. And I wonder, I did a post-match, another review on Sunday, and I said he's got to be careful. Of all the midfielders that we've got, the one that's got to be more careful is Paqueta. Because if he keeps faltering, I could see him getting dropped, to be quite honest with you. CC, 1985-86, we lost our first 3 games, and our recent 6th place finish, we lost our first 2. There you go. I'm not panicking over the first game. Teddy, I think Souček and Ward-Prowse slowed us down, although Soufal disappointed in my opinion. Really need Wan-Bissaka on Saturday. Good evening, Aaron. It was a diplomatic team selection. If he dropped all the old players, then lost half the squad. That's a fair comment, that. Good evening, Montana. How are you, mate? Can you tell me why did we sign a prospect winger instead of a central midfielder? I'm starting to doubt, Tim. We need a Souček replacement for 3 seasons at least. I get it. I do get it. Would it have been maybe there was a plan in action, and the players that we wanted we didn't all get after we signed uh, uh, um, the young Brazilian. But I get why we got him. I think he will start getting game time. I think it will be maybe into the season. I don't think we'll see much of him at the beginning, and when we start having cup competitions, etc., I think he will play. I think it's good for him to be in and around the team. And let's not forget, at the end of this season, whatever we do, we might lose Mohamed Kudus. So to have this young player alongside, I think it's important to have him there, the young Brazilian, and I think and I get why we bought him. And who knows, he could be a dark horse as the season progresses. Apache, good evening to you. Fulkrug, excuse me. Fulkrug would provide us with balance up front. I agree with you. CC Spurs were Spursy again tonight. 1-1. Good. Hammer it. We're still a while away from finding our best 11. Have faith. We're going to be cooking given a few more games. And I agree with that. Good evening to you, Dalton. Result was a bit disappointing, but I was surprised Lopetegui didn't recognise Souček was missing from midfield and why Antonio marking someone twice his height. Good shout. Montana. Why did we sign an old geezer to replace an old Antonio? Was Moyes really the problem? Where are these pearls? I was told we were going to get. It's so depressing. Well, wait. You've got to give it time. You've got to give it time. I'm not going to panic just yet. I think it's way too early to be panicking. Howard, give this man some. Thank you very much. Look, 454 people watching. If you've yet to hit the like button, please do press that like button. Much appreciated. And if you've yet to become a subscriber, it doesn't take much to subscribe. It's free to subscribe, and all the content is free as well. So please do both. And I appreciate it very much. Trini, Souček at least can be used in certain situations. In my opinion, Ward-Prowse only stays for the homegrown stats. Well, interestingly, now that we know that Somerville is homegrown, we've got 9 homegrown players. We can sell a homegrown player and won't suffer for it. Shaky, I once dated a one-legged girl who worked in a brewery. She was in charge of the hops. Oh, dear. Don't give up your day job, mate. Teddy, we have said so many times before, Souček doesn't work with the Lopetegui system. We have said it so many times. I agree. Montana, Lopetegui forced us to buy Kilman, and that is what we had to show for it. It just felt like I was watching Moyes ball all over again. Disagree, because I'll tell you why. I think Kilman was one of our better players at the weekend, to be really honest with you. I really did. Hammer, it was reported tonight that we're going to offload Tati, Ward-Prowse, Cornet, Zuma, hopefully finding a new club. Easier said than done. Let's scroll down more. Gary, should not taken captain off. Don't look good. No, I get it. If you it doesn't matter whether you're captain or not. If you're not in the game, it demonstrates that Lopetegui is not afraid to make big decisions. I think that's fine. Delton, Bowen suffered because he has no knowledge of fullback game management. No knowledge of fullback game management. Are you talking because he had to cover for a lot for Soufal? Nick, you're right, but the fact he tried that even is something to consider. If he didn't want to change the formation around, obviously not his main position though. Which player are you talking about? Andrew, I thought Kilman looked edgy on Saturday, but eventually settled down and had a 7 out of 10 performance. Think he'll be a good signing. I agree. I think he will. Toho, warming up for Wednesday. Usual. Hopefully you'll make it this week. What's happening on Wednesday? We haven't got a game this Wednesday. Next Wednesday, isn't it? GJ, absolutely right. Obi-Wan was the type of wing back at Palace. He started out as a winger. Of course, he can play the wing back role. Good to hear. But many people are saying at Man United, he hardly got forward. So I don't know. But you're right. You are. I make you right when he played at Palace. Jimenez in talks with Forest apparently would have been a great signing if they pull that off, Andrew. Fair play to them. Stel, odds of signing Durant, I think they're much lower than they were, to be honest with you. Thank you very much, Colin. I really do appreciate that. Much appreciated. Let's see. Let's scroll down. Tony. Great stuff, Hammers. Smack Liverpool would be great. Bowen and Kudus. Great stuff, Hammers. Smack Liverpool will be Bowen, great Bowen, and what? Sorry, Tony, I didn't understand. You want them to go to Liverpool, or do you want Bowen and Kudus to smack Liverpool? I didn't understand. GP. Thought Andrew was going to quote Ainsley Harriott on Full Krug Obsidian. Montana, Tim wanted Fofana. They scouted him together. Moyes said no, the twat. There you go. We could have had him then, couldn't we? Right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break and we're going to go into the transfers when I can find the video. Right. So let's talk about transfers, shall we? Because you're absolutely correct in what you're all saying. If we want to bring players in, we're going to have to start looking at letting players go. Now, we already know that Kurt Zouma, one way or another, is not going to be part of the squad this coming season. And I said to you earlier that we don't necessarily need to move players on to make way for them in the squad, because this is the squad as it stands now. Zuma's gone. You know, whether we pay him off, whether he gets a new club or whatever, Zuma's gone. There's a big question mark on Knife Gerd, and I've got a suspicious feeling that we will probably be hearing about a Knife Gerd move in the coming days. He's one of the few players that we've got that has any value. Okay, will we get 30 million for him? Probably not. As the transfer window ebbs closer to its end, we might have to take another hit. I don't want us to, but we might have to take another hit there. Now, that means with Lopetegui saying that he wants to have 2 players for every position, that will open up a position at left of centre back. Now, I'm going to go into the players that we're still linked to, excuse me, in a moment. But there aren't that many left-footed centre backs that we're currently linked to. I know there's Zeze from Nantes, but that's all gone quiet. The young 19-year-old centre back. But at this moment in time, there isn't a centre back who's left-footed that we're linked to. So hold that thought. Now, Andy Irving. All of a sudden, we're beginning to hear that there are bids coming in from clubs like Atalanta and Espanyol. How much truth there is in that, I do not know. But that, again, is an interesting story. Then, of course, Cornet, Gerd, I mentioned earlier in the show. Gerd and Cornet were both not put on the bench at the weekend. And I think that speaks volumes, considering you had someone like Irving on the bench. So you could have easily have put a Gerd instead of Irving. You could have easily have put Cornet instead of Irving. But Lopetegui went for Irving. So that, to me, speaks volumes that we could be a lot closer to moving a Gerd on than we think. And quite possibly Cornet may be on his way as well. We've already talked about it in the chat about Danny Ings. There is a desire to let Danny Ings leave West Ham United. I mentioned about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, there was an offer from Southampton where there was a bid of something like £6 million, and we were going to subsidise Danny Ings' wages so that he wouldn't lose out because he's with us for another season, in his final season of his contract. But Ings turned that down. He said he wanted to fight for his place in the squad. But I think we're probably a lot closer to losing 1 or 2 players than we think. Now, if you look at the number of players that are there, we've got 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23 players there, 22 players in the middle there. And that means with Zouma gone, with a Gerd gone, and with possibility of Cornet gone, that means we've got 3 places anyway in the squad. Having said all that, if we don't manage to sell the players that West Ham desire to let go of, and the players that the West Ham desire to let go of more than anyone is a Gerd, is Cornet, and Ings. Between them, a Gerd is earning something like 70 grand a week. Cornet's on about the same, 70 grand a week, and Ings is on about 100 odd grand a week. So you could be saving yourself what? One, two, 100, 240, 250 grand a week in wages, which will allow you to not only sign Soler, who, as I've said earlier in the show, rumor is that we're actually talking to PSG about a signing now. And he's on about 90 odd grand a week. He might want a little pay rise as well. So let's say 100 grand a week there. It will allow you to bring that player in, but would also allow you to either bring in another striker if Ings goes, or another centre back if a Gerd goes. So there are a lot of question marks still over who's leaving. It is not for the want of trying that West Ham have been trying to shift the likes of Cornet, the likes of Ings, and the likes of a Gerd. They're the three main players that West Ham United would like to move on. Like I said, Zuma is gone anyway. Whatever happens, Zuma will not even come in as a backup. I'll be very, very surprised if there's no takers, because we're letting him go virtually for nothing. He's also on 100 grand a week as well. If Zuma goes on 100 grand a week, maybe we're even closer to that than we think as well. We need to get rid of a player that's on big wages in order to be able to pay Soler his big wages. But it doesn't end there. And let's go through some of the players that we're actually still linked to, because we're still linked to Trevor Chalobah. Now, again, I'm not sure. When you look at this, having two players for each position, Chalobah doesn't quite fit that mold. Now, I thought some time back that maybe Mavropanos would be the player that would be gone, and then that would make perfect sense to bring Chalobah in. Now that Mavropanos is, I think, one of the few remaining players that's demonstrated his worth. He had a decent game at the weekend. I can't take that away from him. Given that he did have a decent game, one wonders whether we'd still be in for Chalobah. He's training alone. He's training with the with the development squad, with the under-21s. He would be a good addition to the squad because he is versatile. He can play at right back as well. And, who knows? Maybe Soufal may be gone. I don't think he will. But at least we've got another alternative to Wan-Bissaka if need be. So I'm a bit 50-50, where I was a little bit more convinced that we would get Chalobah when I've spoken about him before. This time round, I'm not so certain. Now, there's talk about us going for, this is a new name that came up over the last day or two, Ernest Mucci from Besiktas. I can't pronounce it. Now, he only moved to the Turkish club in February 2024. Before that, he was at Legia Warsaw, played 114 games, 21 goals, 10 assists. He's only had 18 games for the Turkish club and scored 5 goals already. Albanian international, 12 games. He's played for Albania, 3 goals. Great agility, good speed, excellent ball control, high work rate, very composed on the ball. Young, 23 years of age, value 13 million euros. However, and as I've mentioned earlier, the rumor is that it is Carlos Soler that we're going for. An unused sub at the weekend. Rumor is it's got stronger tonight that apparently we've opened negotiations with PSG, and we've got the availability in the squad. Even if it's only just to in terms of squad numbers, we've got enough to do that. Go back here again. He will fill a slot. I put in him as an attacking midfielder, but he's more a versatile midfielder. He started his career as a striker, went back to attacking midfield. He plays as a central midfielder. So you take your pick who you want to pair him up with. I've paired him up with Souček. So he will fill a slot. And there's 2 left there. There's centre-back, and I've mentioned already about Chalobah, and there's a striker position to go. He's versatile, great passing range, fantastic ball control, great work rate. And as I said the other day as well, when I did a special show on him, also, he would fill in for Paqueta if Paqueta does get banned. Not so sure what's going to happen there. John Duran. I think chances are fading, to be honest with you. He's been given the number 9 shirt. Emery wants him to stay. Messages are conflicting. He came on. He was given time against us, of course. I mean, it had to happen, didn't it? We knew that he was going to score against us the minute he came on. I think what Emery will do, quite cleverly, is give Duran enough game time between now and the close of the transfer window. And then let's see whether he continues to use him in the same manner or not, or whether he starts getting less game time. By then, it's too late, of course. But then we've got January, but we can't wait till January to get ourselves a striker. I like the way Duran, his movement, his passing, his speed, etc., his positioning. He was great again. He was decent against us, and we could see quite clearly what we were missing at West Ham over the last couple of seasons by not having a striker like that. Tammy Abraham. I've been told tonight, well, I've been told several times that there really isn't any interest in Tammy Abraham, but who knows? The thing about him is, his bad injury last season, missed a whole number of games. And I think Roma are kind of more desperate to sell him than anything. They brought, is it Dubrovnik in at Roma? So they're looking to move him on. Look, he would be a good squad addition. He's got good pace. But it's the injury record that's the big concern. 25 million is not bad for Abraham, 26 years of age, but I worry. I don't know. Would I have him over nothing? I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know. I mean, if Duran was available, then we would all go for Duran. But I'm really sort of not sure whether Abraham would be the right fit for us. Who knows? Then, of course, comes a story about Ivan Toney, who was left out of the matchday squad against Crystal Palace. The club admitted there are transfer speculations about the player. And he's been linked to quite a number of clubs out in the Saudi, of course, and as well as clubs in the Premier League as well. Could we go for him? I kept saying to myself, no, he's not going to come to West Ham United. Now I'm beginning to really convince myself, since Tottenham signed Solanke, there's no other club in top six club, I don't think, that will go for Ivan Toney. I know we're not top six, but bear with me. There's no other top six club that will go in Premier League that I don't think will go for Toney. Could he go to Liverpool? I doubt it. Could he go to Chelsea? Highly unlikely. Arsenal? Don't think so. Spurs have got Solanke. So I'm beginning to ask myself now, have we been waiting? Have we been playing the long game to go and make a bid for Ivan Toney? Now, I know Brentford want 40 million for him, like I mentioned earlier. We want 30 million for a Gerd, but we're not going to get that. And I just wonder if we might put in a cheeky bid for Ivan Toney over the coming days. I know Wiggy will be cock-a-hoop if we got him. He's been advocating that we should sign Ivan Toney for quite some time. I wouldn't mind him. He's a goal scorer, natural goal scorer. I think he will easily feed off the likes of Kudus, Paqueta, Somerville, Bowen. He would love it there, to be honest with you. And he'll be a good foil as well. He'll be a good alternative to Fulkrug. Then we will have Fulkrug and Toney. And I'm almost tempted to put a little wager on that we might just... Now, look, of course, Saudi clubs might come in and blow us out of the water and bid big money. They might give Brentford the 40 million that they're asking for. And of course, Ivan Toney could become multi-millionaire by the sort of salary that he may be offered. But I just wonder, not every player always wants to go abroad, especially it's like somewhere like Saudi. I know they're getting stronger as a league, etc. But I just wonder, now that we've kind of know that John Duran is kind of not going to come to us, and I'm not so certain about Tammy Abraham, I just wonder if we might just put in a cheeky bid for Ivan Toney. Watch this space. It's going to be interesting. Right, let's scroll down and catch up with your comments. Let's scroll down and get Daniel. If we want to loan players out, can they refuse to go? Yes, they can. Yeah. A player can refuse to be sold. If the player doesn't want to be sold, or if doesn't want to be loaned out, he can refuse to go. Vic, this is the best West Ham channel. I'm seriously, I'm humbled, and thank you for saying it. WHU 58. I think the betting scandal is weighing heavily on Paqueta, hence that mixed form. Is it? I don't know. You could be right, mate. To be honest with you, you could be right. And thank you, Hammerette. If you've been watching and you've yet to hit the like button, as Hammerette said, you need to smash it right now, and you need to become a subscriber to this channel, because I agree with Vic. It's the best West Ham channel. I'm kidding, but thank you for saying that. Let's scroll down. Andrew Paqueta reminds me a bit of Di Canio. Only turns up when in the mood. You know what? Yes. That's good. Yeah, a good resemblance there. I agree. Yeah, spot on. Obsidian, just Google young Brazilian. Now I'm on a register. It's only because I kept forgetting his name, Guilherme. I guess I'm like, what the fuck is his name? You know, when you go blank, I go name blank an awful lot. If I haven't got it read, and I'm telling you, I do have scripts, not like but notes. And if I don't have names written down, I go name. What's the word for it? I forget names. It's old age. It is old age. I do accept that. I do accept that. Delton, yeah, and well, good luck to you, Obsidian. Delton, Bowen must stay on the right. Kudus to play number 10. Pac-Man deeper. Will always drop deeper to defend. He can break left or right. What do you think? I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want you to give me an answer now. So when you reply, say answer or say A, capital A. Paqueta, deeper in midfield. Yes or no? And why? You know, do you think he'll be better there, or do you think he'll be a liability? And would he not provide enough cover that we would expect a deeper midfielder to play? So let me know. Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Keith. Diganis Bolagala. I hope you're well, mate. GJ. Still, I was told you give 20 quid to everyone that smashes a like. Where should I send my bank details? Amaret, give him your bank details, will you? Or take his bank details. Don't pass them on to me, though. Hammerit, Darren, it's all just opinions, but I don't get the fretting just yet myself. Happy to wait and pray it all comes together. There's no need to fret. Far too early. It's okay. We've had one game. Johnny, Kilman watched the first goal and should have tried to make a challenge. He had time to look up and see that he had lost Antonio. I can't blame Kilman. I still not blaming Areola. For me, it was Antonio for letting the play. Shouldn't have let the play. He should have been. Even I, who have played football, know you've got to be goal side of the player that you're marking. Antonio was behind him. He was already playing catch up because he was already behind him. Montana, Sufal was struggling. Why wasn't Bissaka subbed instead? I did wonder why Bissaka didn't come on. That did confuse me, to be quite honest with you. I'll make you right there. But I think what happened was that I think we went with a back three. And I think possibly that's why Wan-Bissaka didn't come on in the end, because we went with a back three and we filled out the midfield and the attack as well. She had a great time without me. Typical. As you know, if you watched the show the other day, Keith was very brave. He let his missus go to a wedding without him. It was their wedding. No, it wasn't. Stephen, Paqueta had to come off. He definitely had a second yellow in him. That's also very true. Got an early yellow, didn't he? Christian, good evening, mate. Just get Somerville on the left. Play our best players in their best positions. Agreed. Andrew, Areola needs to command his box a lot better than he does. He looks shaky when I watch him. Where's Soler going to play? Well, this is it. Where is Soler going to play? Like I've said, for me, at the moment, I don't see the point of signing him. I do see the point of signing him. I think it will give us something different. But I put him, he can play anywhere in the midfield, but I put him at the moment as attacking mid. Johnny, sometimes you have to guard the danger when you see it. Nick, goalkeeper, Areola, back three, Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman, central defensive midfield, Souček and Rodriguez. Attacking mid, Bowen, Paqueta, Kudus, Somerville. and Fukrug up front. Not bad, not bad. Montana, Andy Carroll, Tammy Abraham's just another Andy Carroll. No for me. I'm not sold on him, mate, either. Obsidian, I suspect if we're winning or even drawing, we would have seen Wan-Bissaka, but once we were behind, he had to use offensive subs. Yeah, agree with that. GP, Somerville is exciting. So glad we got him over Zaha. I like Somerville. I think he's going to be a smash, to be honest with you. Big side. Would rather play Irving over Ward Prowse or Socek. Scott, is Irving homegrown? No, he's not. Could he stay to meet that quota? Doesn't have to. Ironically, we've got 9 homegrown players because out of the blue, Somerville is apparently homegrown. Didn't know that, but we were told that last week. DC, we need an athletic number 8 and possibly a forward. Probably another reason why Soler is coming, because he is athletic. Hamlet, we won't need a Gerd if Mavropanos and Kilman link up like they did for much of the Villa match with Libido. I'm pretty happy. Is he your new Libido? Have you forgotten already about your Argentinian, have you? Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? DC again. Gerd is the Kilman backup. Mavro, the Todibo backup. Gerd is the Kilman backup at the moment. But yes, if a Gerd went, we need another left-sided player to replace him. Not many about. Spot on. Montana. Ings is holding us back. Why the hell he rejected a move to help us improve our team? It is a strange one, to be honest with you. It is a surprise, given that he was going to be paid, subsidize his wages. I was surprised. Scott, I believe Chalobah is coming in too. Chelsea have 40 players. They need to get rid, don't they? We've got to have a look, haven't we? We've got to have a look and see who else we can. They are going to get desperate. They're going to get so done by PSR, FFP, and all that malarkey. Hamret, I don't want to sell Antonio at this stage. Just want him as an impact sub if we get full Krug ticking. Let's put it this way. If we do keep Antonio and he realizes he is second fiddle, he will want to go in January. I guarantee he will go in January. Steve, in the short time Todibo came on, he looked good. I liked him. He looked composed. He looked good. He looked solid. DC, why are we signing Soler? I think I've explained that, mate. I think it gives us another option in midfield, and it's possible, we don't know yet, what's going to happen to Paqueta moving forward. Shaky. Montana, Ings wouldn't get close to his wages elsewhere, and yet we offered to subsidize his wages in order to let him go. Andrew, Ings has been one of our worst signings ever. He's been shocking. Now watch him get 10 goals. Mark, I'm surprised we haven't tried to be cheeky and get João Cancelo at City, who can play left back and right back, out of favour, and Pep said he can leave on loan again. Oh, I wonder what wages he'll be on. If they subsidise some of his wages, what a good shout that is. You know what? That passed me right by. That's a good shout, Mark. That's a good shout. Montana, Stella had a dream. Amanda Stabley bought 25% shares of the club and we hired Eddie Howe. And Sean Whetstone told me that he put that out as a bit of a joke in the summer or whenever it was, when it's slow news day. And he said it's not going to happen. I fell for it. And I would have liked her to come in 25%. Would she have brought Eddie out? I don't know. We've got to give Lopetegui time. Nick, Chelsea fans I know are laughing at the Chalobah interest. Are they? Why? Chalobah is very prone to making mistakes. He'll fit in well then, wouldn't he? When he came back from his injury, apparently he was very good at the tail end of the Chelsea season. Scott Chalobah will be a great backup. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Andrew, Chelsea wants stupid money. Stay well clear. He's average personified. Nick, did Stell say best shit Kaz? I did. What did I say? I did say that. Steve, we will shed the shite and bring in the new, and we will shut up the be careful what you wish for brigade. One thing I do hope is the fan base all get together this season. Let's not get Lopetegui in, Lopetegui out and all that. There was too much of that last season. I hope we don't go back to that. Nick, the rumour is Soler will be a loan with an obligation to buy. That's even better, because that means, a bit like we did with Todibo. That's a loan to buy, which means we don't have to fork out the money in this summer. Where will Soler play? Soler is an all-round midfielder. Like I said earlier on, started his career off as a striker. He moved to attacking midfielder. He can now play central midfield as well. He's played all over that midfield patch. Montana. I have done that one. Oh, I have a dream Eddie Howe comes to the bowl. We win the league and cup double. We might win it under Lopetegui. You never know. GP, we paid 32 mil for Cornet and Ings, and Sully won't pay 40 for Duran. Good point. Good point. Trini, I read Villa are interested in Omeridian. If they are interested in Omeridian, we're getting Duran. If they're interested in Omeridian, we're getting Duran. That will be very, very interesting. Montana, we do not need Duran. Plenty of strikers in the market. Let Tim die for the pearls now. Moyes cannot veto him. DC, we're not signing Duran. Why would he come now? Well, as Trini's just said, if that is true, that Aston Villa are looking at Omeridian, they will let Duran go. Andrew, has anyone watched Soler? I never heard of him until we were linked. I've seen a few snippets of him. He does look decent. He does look decent in the central of midfield. Toha, when Duran was gesturing, I'm here to stay, he was pointing at the London Stadium pitch. Interestingly, he wasn't really. Well, no, he wouldn't have done that. Matt, I'd rather take Duran or maybe take a punt on Tony near the end of the window. Let's scroll down for more. Hammer it. Tony wants stupid money. Will go to Saudi because of his greed. Then good luck to him if that's the way he's going to go. Montana, I take his manager instead of Wissa and mate, you've got it in already for Lopetegui. That's not good. You've got to bide your time, Montana. Robert, it is being said that West Ham are offering PSG an 11-month loan with an obligation to buy next year for Soler. I think that's going to be done. Tony is a phony. Tony is one bet or one back injury from retirement. Tony not coming to us. Come on. I didn't say he was. I said it could possibly happen. If it gets to a point where no one is buying Tony, we might put in a last minute bid for him. Scott, with us deferring all this money until next year, we're losing Paqueta or Kudus. I know that. I'm prepared for that. And I think we all accept that. I'm pretty damn certain that we all accept that. One of the big players next summer is definitely going to go. GP, I would like Tony, but I would also like Stell. You've got me on this. Usual. Rumours Tony being a proper arsehole at Brentford now. Well, that's why he's been dropped. He wants to move, doesn't he? Michael, we might win the lottery with Tony and Paqueta. Obsidian, Tony is class. Saudi don't like paying big fees, just big wages. So let's see what happens there. Toha, John Duran is an anagram of John Duran. My education was not wasted. Foxes, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Trini, Duran celebrations could be cryptic. It's actually meant he's staying at the London Stadium as we were the home team. Yeah, I know. Several people have said that. Andrew, Sullivan paid 27 million for the 31-year-old when he could have paid an extra 13 and got Duran for 40. Sullivan has messed up badly here. Did not really need to blow 25 mil on Guilherme. Let's not forget, people, this is on the advice of our new head of technical director. So it's the technical director that's saying what should happen here. And my understanding is that all of everyone walked away from the Duran deal. Maybe we thought if we play the long game, dementia, mate, it is dementia. Maybe we're playing the long game to think that maybe Aston Villa might have reduced their asking price. Delton, A for you. Chris, yes, he'll have more time on the ball. Good evening to you, Vape Dad. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining from Chattanooga in Tennessee. Thanks for joining, mate. I hope you're well. Paqueta is suited in deeper role. So you're all kind of saying that, yes, it's better to have Paqueta in a deeper role. Interesting. I thought many of you, there you go, DC, Paqueta is too poor defensively to play the number 8. Paqueta is better suited in a deeper role. Um, Obsidian answer: he plays 8 for Brazil. It's worth a try at least. Um, Daniel: yes, give him more space in a tight formation. Fortune's hiding down, and good evening to you. I hope you're well. Just woke up in Oz. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. DC, Fred: Guilherme is supposed to be a pearl for future profit. Exactly that. So I get why we bought him. GJ: A for me. Yes, Hoddle played the deeper role for Spurs, not all the time, and he was sublime. A ball-playing, deep-lying midfielder would control the game. So you're more of you are in favour of it than I thought. That's interesting. Oh man. 8, no, as he loses the ball too much. So there you go. Just been brought back down to earth. Garino, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Strength in depth. Why obsession with who is going to play in the first 11? Moot point if you have 2 quality players for each position. Well, I guess people want to know who's starting. I get your point, though. Absolutely. It wouldn't matter if we've got 2 quality players for each position. Yeah, good point. Andrew, I'm happy with Guilherme signing. I'm just saying that with hindsight, it really is essential when we needed a top striker like Duran. I get that point in that respect. Hammerit: Loppy is a whole different ball game to Moyes with the use of subs. We've all been so moist and suffering from PTSD. Matt: Emerson is a fullback, as was Sufal. Can we just take a minute, Hammerit, to remember that Moisty Moise has gone to Debo? James looks a unit. I like what I saw in the 5 minutes of normal time, another 7 minutes of added time. I like what I saw. Totally agree. Usual. That Chelsea owner looked a picture of happiness on Sunday. The man has got more money than sense, to be quite honest with you. I don't think he quite knows how to spend. Well, quite clearly, he doesn't know how to spend it. Big size, 73 minutes, floppy made. Any subs nearly as bad as Moyes? Look, I don't think he'll take as long to make subs moving forward, to be quite honest with you. Paul: Ings won't leave as he's taken us to the cleaners and then goes on a free just to rub it in. Who will take him on, to be quite honest with you, once his contract ends? Oh, maybe there's someone. DC: not so sure Chaloba is a considerable improvement on Mavropanos. That's fair. Good comment. Colin: Stell, Kilman, Todibo, Chaloba, Alvarez, Rodriguez, Somerville, Paqueta, Kudos, Fulkrug, Bowen up front. You haven't got a keeper. You're just going to go without a keeper. Gary, mate, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Andrew: Villa have added another 5 million to the 40 million they wanted after scoring on Saturday. Question: any news on concessions protests? Good shout, because I should have mentioned that earlier on. There were more protests carried out at the weekend again in the game. There will be more when at the Palace game that I'm going to this weekend as well. What the board did, forgive me if I didn't mention it in the show last week. The board have conceded to a point. Well, not conceded. I want to call it that. I don't want to call it conceded. The board have agreed some changes. So, if you remember, the board have taken away concession tickets for all season ticket holders and for match day tickets as well. What they've now said is for category A and category AA games like Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal's, etc., they will only offer concessions for bands 5 to 6 in the stadium. However, for category B games and lower, they will offer concessions for all bands. So that's a small win. What we want the club to do is we want them to offer concessions no matter what category the game is. And then secondly, that's just on match day tickets. And then secondly, we want them to go back to offering concession tickets on season tickets. So if you're eligible for a concession ticket, if you'd applied for the first time this season, you would have been told no, unless you moved up to band 5 and band 6. So what West Ham, the fans want is that concession tickets will be available to fans who have got season tickets in bands 1 to 4. That's what we want. Thank you for reminding me, Chris. Much appreciated. Garino, Moyes lovers, Lop out brigade were after the Villa match. They were out after the Palace and Wolves friendlies too. Whole thing is boring. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. I think it will be boring. I agree with you. We've no need to go down that hole just yet. Let's see what happens. Hayden, good evening to you. Fanbase United, come on, Stel. Next, you'll be achieving peace in the Middle East. If only. Garino. We have an interest in on Meridian. Apparently, we have. Let's see if that materializes as well. Trini. That's why I said he was third choice at Villa earlier. Because of on Meridian. GP. There's already YouTube fan channel drama. Anton and Ross kidnap Gonzo. Naked nipple tickling. DC, have we given up on Grandpa Fulkrug already? Absolutely not. I do think he will work out. Garino. Oh, you don't think he will work out? Who knows? Let's see. Garino. When Duran was pointing at the pitch on Saturdays because he accepted the position of ball boy. Andrew, if Forest are in for Jimenez, we should be trying to hijack that deal. He's quality. Moyes wants to get a bet out in Saudi. Would hate to lose Kudus. We won't. We probably will next summer, and I'm already geared up for that. I'm already accepting that. That we'll worry about that when the time comes. We don't know where we'll be. We might be in Champions League at the end of this season. Yes, I'm dreaming, but why not dream? So I'm not going to worry about it until this time next season. But you're right. I'd hate to lose him as well. You'll never see Timmy and Tom Kerridge in the same room. Good evening, mate. How are you? If we buy Tony, the West Ham curse will reappear. Probably known us. It will. Yes, you said it before. Dementia. Mark, it's going to take time for the project team has for the club to set in. Trust in Steiden and Loppy, and as the season goes on, the side will gel more and get the results we need. Hamret. We all want to see players come in and make an instant impact, of course, but building for the future, especially with the restrictions, is crucial too. Guilherme could end up being brilliant. I think the young lad will lap it up being in and around the senior team, and he will get game time. And who knows what might become of him. Guilherme looks like one for about 2 years' time at the earliest. He looks much further behind than I expected. I don't know if he does look further behind. He will get game time. And I think Lopetegui is expecting to use him. Andrew, Paqueta is too petulant, and Alvarez are a liability. Pick up too many cards. Lopetegui needs to sort it out, and probably another reason why Lopetegui wants to have two players for every position. Garino, when Paqueta came in, Moyes played him as a 10, but everyone screamed he was an 8. When he got moved there, he started to shine. Then Moyes moved into left wing. I see him as an 8, as Kudus can play central attacking midfield. I agree with that. Chaz. Now Soler looks close to completion. Name 2 more signings you would like West Ham to make. Well, another centre-back and another striker. I don't have a preference. Earlier on, I talked about some of the players that apparently we're still linked to. Chaloba, some people think, yeah, some people don't. But as I said, if we're going to move on a Gerd, if it looks like a Gerd going, then ideally we'd need a left-footed centre-back. So I'm not so sure whether it will be Chaloba or not. Soler, Ernest Mucci would be an alternative. Now that it's looking like Soler is coming, I don't think that's going to materialise. Soler, have already mentioned. And then when it comes to strikers, I did like what I saw from Duran. It was pretty obvious that he was going to score against us. And I still would like to get him if there's a remote chance. If someone just said, if West Ham are in, if Aston Villa are in for Omeridian, it could be that John Duran might be moved on. Tammy Abraham, I don't favour. Tony, let's see. Omeridian, maybe. Let's see what happens with him as well. Chaz, say we move on Ings, Cornet, a Gerd Zuma, and either Prowse or Socek. What signings would you bring in to finish our transfer window? Well, as I've just mentioned, Soler in the middle, another centre-back who I can't name, and another striker who I can't name. Sean, where have you been? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Let's scroll down. DC. Fafana is exactly what we need. Doesn't want to come, though, which is a shame. Can't get them all. Chaz. No, maybe Duran scoring was a part of our deal for Duran. We give him 3 points. They reduced the price by 5 million. Vape Dad, stay dreaming. We'll win the league with that motto. Why not? Why not? Cockney boy, good evening to you. If Villa wanted 50 million for Duran, I still think he's worth it. The lad looked class, exactly what we needed for 5 years. Terence, we need to sell Nketiah from Arsenal and sell them Kudus. You're dreaming now. Let's scroll down. Nketiah. See, I wouldn't even go for him. I wouldn't even go for Nketiah, to be honest with you. DC again. Even if we get rid of Ings, we have Antonio, Grandad and Bowen, who would revert to striker with plenty of people to fill in for him if required. I'm saying there's no chance we sign a striker. Who knows? Who knows? Paul, you have been here all night. I'm pretty glad that you have. Paul, we've been linked to a young Turkish central midfielder, like a beast, similar to Fofana. He's the one I mentioned just a moment ago. Let's go back to his. That's him. He would be as an alternative to Soler, Ernest Mucci from Besiktas or whatever. Is that the one that you're talking about, Paul? Or are you talking about someone else? I've got to the end of the comments. I have got the end to the comments. 155, nearly 2 hours. How time flies when you're enjoying yourself. I've got to go. Leave you all to go to bed as well before it gets to Tuesday. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for commenting. Really much appreciated. Sorry for the poor start of the show because I lost the video that should have gone on. But let's not get too panicky, shall we? Let's not get too het up about losing a game, and in the manner that we lost it, etc., etc. I kind of understand all that. I get what you're all saying, but I think there's so much football to be played this season and so many changes to be made, and getting all the new players that we've got up to speed as well. It's going to be very different moving forward. And I predict that it'll be very different even this coming Saturday against Crystal Palace. So don't get upset. No need. It's too early in the season to even start thinking negatively. So let's see how we go. Let's see how the season goes on. And thank you all for watching. Thank you all for commenting. Really much appreciated. And I will see you all, I'm sure, very soon. Who knows? Maybe even tomorrow morning with a new show. I'll see you soon. And thanks for joining.